So good morning, and thank you for your interest in the Commonwealth Research Commercialization Fund, or CRCF. My name is Jennifer Hiltwine, and I'm a member of the CRCF team here at CIT. Today, I'd like to take just a few minutes to talk to you about the CRCF FY2016 solicitation with a focus on the letter of intent process. Once the prepared remarks conclude, I'll address any questions that participants may have. Before we get started, just a couple of administrative details that I'd like to point out. The first is that all participants have been placed on mute to avoid feedback or background noise. Questions may be submitted at any time during the presentation and will be answered during the Q&A opportunity at the end. To submit a question, expand the Webinar Control Center and use the Questions feature. Lastly, this session is being recorded and will be made available on CIT's website within the next several days. CRCF in its current form began in 2011. The program is in its 7th solicitation. To date, we've made 184 awards totaling nearly $16.5 million. This year, $3.4 million is available to award through 5 programs to for-profit technology businesses, colleges and universities, federal research facilities, and university research consortia. I'll briefly highlight these 5 programs and some of the eligibility criteria in a few minutes, but complete information is found within each set of program guidelines. This is a limited submission solicitation, and institutional submission caps exist for all programs. I especially want to call this out for the university faculty researchers who are participating today, as most, if not all, of Virginia colleges and universities conduct an internal competition to select those projects that will be submitted on behalf of the institution. If you are a faculty member interested in applying for funding in an eligible program, we recommend that you reach out to staff from your Office of Sponsored Programs for more information on their internal process, including their internal deadlines. All program information is available online, including the guidelines and other CRCF resources. A link will be shown on a following slide. Additionally, all submissions are handled online. Across all 5 programs this round, project work must primarily align with one of 5 technology sectors: cybersecurity, energy, information technology, specifically for work in data analytics, life sciences, and unmanned systems for air, ground, sea, or space. Some of these sectors are different from prior rounds, so please pay close attention to your project alignment, especially for those applicants considering a resubmission. I won't spend a lot of time today walking through the criteria for each program, but I did want to share some high-level information and the overall goal for each program offered this round. There are 3 programs available to the private sector in FY16: commercialization, SBIR matching funds, and STTR matching funds. Projects under any of these programs may request and be awarded up to $50,000. Any company may submit up to 2 LOIs or applications and be funded for 2 awards in any combination under these 3 programs. The commercialization program targets for-profit technology companies with proof of concept projects in one of the 5 industry areas. Projects must have a reasonable probability of enhancing the Commonwealth's national and global competitiveness. The SBIR and STTR matching funds programs aim to accelerate the commercialization of technology already supported by a federal SBIR or STTR Phase 1 or 2 award. CRCF funding may fill the gap between phase submissions or assist with technology development activities not supported by the federal award. The CRCF Matching Funds Program is for Virginia's public and private colleges and universities, federal research facilities located in Virginia, or a university research consortium that includes Virginia college or university members. The goal of this program is to assist these qualified organizations commercialize a technology and/or to leverage other non-Commonwealth of Virginia funding designated for commercialization. Projects under the Matching Funds Program as well as the private sector programs that were discussed a few moments ago, ought to be high potential and target opportunity for commercialization and economic benefit here in Virginia. CRCF projects are expected to focus on technology development work. Under the Matching Funds Program, an institution may submit up to 4 LOIs or applications and receive up to 4 awards total, for a maximum of $100,000 each. Again, for this solicitation, a research center, school, department, institute, and/or other entity associated with a college, university, or research facility is considered under the umbrella of that organization, and an LOI or application received by CRCF from one of these entities will count as a submission of that umbrella organization. The final program offered this round is the Eminent Researcher Recruitment Program. A $250,000 award is eligible for Virginia's public universities. The goal of this program is to assist a university with the recruitment of a top scholar to that institution. Again, for any of the programs offered to our colleges and universities, researchers should be in touch with their offices of sponsored programs as soon as possible to learn about the internal process for submitting to CRCF. There are a handful of key dates to keep in mind during this solicitation, including the upcoming LOI deadline on Friday, December the 4th. That deadline is at 5 p.m. Applicants invited to continue in the process may submit an application until Monday, February the 1st at noon. Late submissions for the LOI or the application will not be accepted. Award announcements are planned for early June 2016. Letters of intent are a required element of the CRCF application process. They help CIT to gauge potential interest in activity, as well as begin identifying subject matter experts for the review process. LOIs must be submitted using the online form. A sample LOI is available for download from CIT's website and is previewed on the next couple of slides. Each LOI, regardless of the program, has a handful of questions, beginning with selecting the CRCF program under which you're interested in applying. Next, you'll be asked to confirm your organization type. As we've been discussing, organization type is an eligibility criteria for each program, and the option or options that you'll see are determined by the program type that you select. The guidelines will aid you in a complete understanding of eligibility. All applicants are asked to provide their project title and primary industry sector. The information entered here cannot be changed in the application. You'll also be asked to provide a brief project description. This should be in layman's terms and discuss the project at a high level, including what CRCF funds would be used for. Applicants have up to 2,000 characters, or approximately 1/3 of a page, for this description, and we recommend using all of the available space. Applicants will next be asked to certify that their organization is compliant with eligibility criteria outlined in the program guidelines. Finally, we ask for the principal investigator's name and contact information, and the organization name, city, state, and tax ID number. All fields are required on the LOI. LOIs that are intended for the SBIR or STTR Matching Funds Program have 3 additional but required fields to complete. The award number of the federal SBIR or STTR that will serve as the project match, whether this is a Phase 1 or Phase 2, and the federal agency who made the award. I'd like to remind everyone that the intent of the CRCF program is for the commercialization of a high potential technology for which IP and revenue will be generated and economic development is envisioned for Virginia. This is a sample letter of intent. As mentioned on an earlier slide, a PDF version is available to download from CIT's website for your convenience. This sample is only meant to give example of the fields on the online form and is not meant for submission purposes. All LOIs must be submitted through the online form, and hard copies or forms attached through email will not be accepted. Once you complete all applicable fields on the online form, click Submit. A confirmation will appear on your screen, and an automatically generated email will also be sent to you confirming receipt by CIT. Please note that it may take a little while for the online system to release the email. It may not be instantaneous. However, if you don't receive this notification within several hours after the submission, please contact the CRCF team at crcf@cit.org. You do not have to submit an LOI that has been started. On the final review screen, next to the option to submit, you'll also see an option to save only. You can click this button to save the LOI and come back and finish working at a later time. However, LOIs must be submitted to be considered before the December 4th deadline. Once an LOI is received, CIT will review and respond to the applicant within 3 business days. If this meets the requirements, the applicant will receive an email with next step instructions. Each project invited to continue will also be assigned a unique reference number that CIT will use moving forward to identify the project. This number will be pre-populated into the application and must be used in the file naming convention for uploaded application documents. CIT reference numbers are an internal identification system developed to identify the program the project was submitted to and the industry sector. Complete information on the FY2016 solicitation is available on the URL on your screen. Here you'll find the sample LOI for download, a sample project budget, FAQs, and links to register or view more recorded webinars offered this round. You'll notice in December and January, we'll offer 2 sessions each on the application process and completing the budget narrative, and we invite you to participate in those sessions. From this URL will also be links to the program pages where you'll be able to download the guidelines, proposal and budget narrative templates, and sample applications. If at any time throughout the solicitation you have questions, my team can be reached at crcf@cit.org. This concludes the prepared portion of the webinar. I'd now like to invite any questions that you may have at this time. Again, questions may be submitted by expanding your webinar control panel and then using the questions function. I'll address questions in the order that they come in to the best of my ability for the benefit of all participants. If a question requires more information to address fully, or if I need to inquire more before answering, all questions submitted are logged and I'll connect with the individual separately with a response at the conclusion of this session. And certainly if you don't have any questions at this time, we can be reached at any time through the email address on your screen. So we have a great question here from a potential applicant who's interested in one of the SBIR matching funds programs. And they're wondering if they've applied for an SBIR, but it has not yet been awarded, what do we put for the award number? So the guidelines say, or what you should put there, and basically it's NA at this time. If the LOI is accepted for application, there will be an upload field that asks you to provide the official notice of award. In the guidelines, you'll see that instead of that space, you would put the project title, the expected date of award, the agency that it was submitted under, and essentially provide us the information about what the project is. And if a CRCF award is made, then you would have, it would be contingent upon receiving that federal award. And once you receive it or don't receive it, you would need to notify CIT within 2 business days. But for the LOI process, you would be able to put NA in that space. So we have a question about how much will be awarded. So certainly for each program, there's a maximum award amount per project. but in total, there's not a predetermined amount. So we have $3.4 million available, and we're looking to fund all of that, really for those best projects that are submitted. So there's not a predetermined amount per program, but just per project. For commercialization, what are the areas that we can spend the award money? I expect that this question stems from what types of activities, and the technology development work is really the primary area that we're looking to fund. So anything that is going to take a technology or that proof of concept from your lab into commercialization and into the market. This year, we are allowing up to 10% of the total request amount to go towards market research. So you are able to use those funds to inquire about the market and really get a sense of what you're trying to enter. But we do expect that there's some knowledge going into the project about the impact that this unmet need that your project is targeting has. Other activities that CRCF supports certainly is the labor. Each one has a cap on the amount of work that a subcontractor or consultant could do. So we're looking for CRCF to really be, or the CRCF project to really be done by the applicant. Monies may also go towards legal fees, for example, to investigate IP and being able to patent that. So a bunch of different areas that support the technology development of a project. What percentage of proposals were awarded last year? So last year we received nearly 70 proposals and funded nearly 40. So we're looking at a pretty good percentage and win rate for the CRCF program. So we have a question about whether 2 LOIs can be submitted under commercialization, or does it have to be 1 commercialization, 1 SBIR? So that decision is certainly up to the company and what they have received. So you could submit in any combination under the 3 private sector programs. That could be 2 commercialization, 2 SBIRs, a commercialization and an STTR. The combination is really up to you. And as long as the eligibility criteria is met for any of those programs, you'd be free to submit in any combination up to 2. So a follow-on question into the percentage of applications that are awarded. There is no prescribed percentage. So just like there's not a prescribed award amount or a predetermined award amount, the percentage that we're looking to fund is not identified early. What we say is that we like to be able to have a program with a high win rate. So we want people to feel that they're not running up against the wall like perhaps NSF with the 10% of applications. So we're looking for those best proposals, and we have a lot of these webinars and other resources available to help you develop the strongest proposals, but there's not a predetermined amount that we're looking to fund. It's not a 50% or a 30% or a 10%. So CRCF awards can include direct costs or indirect costs, excuse me, but there is a cap for each program. It is program specific. So for example, the matching funds program, which is a $100,000 award, there's a 30% cap on the amount of indirect costs that can be requested. The same is true for the private sector programs, but that cap is 10%. And we are really looking, we understand that universities and that companies do have these costs that go into it, and we want to be able to help with those expenses that are incurred, but we'd like for the project specifically to support that, the direct costs. So the direct costs are reviewed more favorably during the evaluation process. But you do have up into that allowable cap. So we have a question about the relationship between CRCF and CHRB, which is the Commonwealth Health Research Board. And to the individual who asked that question, I'm going to need to follow up and with you at a later time and find out. I am not sure what that relationship looks like. I know that we are not working directly with that board. And as I mentioned, all of these are logged as well as the people who asked them, so I'll be able to get back in touch with you directly. And I have the same response to the individual who asked about unmanned systems and whether that refers to automating current manual intensive processes in certain industries. So we have called out the land sea space for the target areas for unmanned systems, and that's coming directly from the Secretary of Technology and the areas that they've deemed of interest. But I'd like to also uncover some more information to address your question, and we'll get back to you. So for commercialization, can award money be used in areas such as advertisement of the product? And for the commercialization project, having something that's at the proof of concept phase is critically important to the project. It's part of the eligibility criteria. And we would expect that there's still technology development work to be done. Advertising of the project would not be where the CRCF funds would primarily come into play. This could be something that could be provided as your match if you were to be perhaps hiring a firm to work on advertising or some of those costs. But the CRCF funds that were requested would be to really work on that technology development, getting the project ready for commercialization, but not things such as marketing or advertising. And I'll take just a moment while people are thinking of more questions, if there are any at this time, to mention that the webinars that we have coming up in December and January, I mentioned that there's one on the application process. And some of the things that we'll go over during that webinar are these tips to create strong proposals. So we don't release sample proposals or anything, the samples or successful proposals that we funded in the past, but we will use that opportunity to share tips on what makes a strong proposal. So things that we've seen or things that we haven't seen that we've been looking for. So I definitely encourage you all to take a look on CIT's website at those webinars and consider joining. Anything that is presented is also recorded, and I'll make those available following the session, just like we've done or will do for this session. And I encourage you to take a look at those recorded webinars or participate yourself to be able to get the most information to help you create the best proposals. I've said it a couple of times, but we're looking to fund the best work here in Virginia, and anything that we can do to help you create the strongest submissions, we're here for. Again, if anything comes to mind as you're completing the LOI or reading through the guidelines or other proposal materials, then I definitely recommend you send a note to my team. The email address is here on your screen, and we're available to help and address any questions that you have at that time. So we have a question about if a company receives $2 million in venture capital funding before a CRCF award. So our commercialization program has a criteria regarding the amount of outside investment that can be received. And that amount is as of the LOI deadline. So anything received after the LOI deadline does not count towards that criteria that's in place. So certainly if it's before the CRCF award, that's not a problem. That would be after the LOI deadline. It's a great question. All right, everyone. Well, I really appreciate your participation today, and I hope that you found this session useful. Again, questions, send them our way, and we hope to see LOIs from many of you presenting or participating today. So thank you again for your time, and I look forward to hearing from everybody. Have a good day.